Hello, welcome to That's Runnable. I'm Tommy. I'm an ultra runner and general adventure and outdoors enthusiast. This show that you're settling into is built on the mantra Run the Runnable. Our focus here is on doing what you can, focusing on what we can achieve, what we can control, and doing it no matter what. We're not here to just soften the demands of your running goals. I'm not here to just tell you that you're always fine to take a day off and it's okay to feel negative about your running and all of that. But I am here to say that that's part of the journey we're on, and that's okay. Our goal is to help each other overcome our mental battles, to be kind and encouraging about the path we're on, and to celebrate the fact that we're out there running the runnable, doing what we can to work on ourselves, showing up for us so we can show up for the people around us, and praise self-improvement, growth, hard work, and enjoying the process. Hello, welcome back, or welcome for the first time. If you're out on a run right now, well done for choosing to commit to your training today. That's a win in my eyes. You're working on yourself, and you should be proud of that. Whatever you're doing at the moment, as it relates to your training, if you're out there training, listening to this, thank you for choosing this podcast to listen to. I hope it's exciting to choose this podcast and listen to it. I hope that if you're an avid listener already, you're glad that there's another one out. And if you're new, I hope that it doesn't disappoint. And most of all, I hope that the training you're doing is intentional. And if you're not training, I hope that's also intentional. Today, I want to take a step back and answer what I think is a really important question. What do I do this for? Why do I do what I do? That's the question. And there's a few more. Why did I start That's Runnable? What is the coaching hub going to be? And what is next for this podcast? I feel like we've reached the end of chapter 1, I guess, the first 25 episodes. So we're moving on to the next chapter, and I want to bring you along. I always want to bring you along on the journey. And as part of that, I want to go back a bit further to where it all started, because running for me is not just a hobby. It's not just a sport or a way to stay fit for me. For me, it saved me. And alongside it, so did strength training, and mindfulness. Now, I'm going to be really honest. I have tried to record this episode a few times. It's currently 9:40 in the evening on a Monday night. And I'm just going to have another go. And if you're listening to this right now, it means that this is the one. This is the take that I went for. But the reason it's taken me quite a few times to record it is because we're going to go a bit personal. We're going to get a bit personal on this. And I hope you don't mind, basically. If you're not up for the ride, that's also completely fine. You can just go back to a previous episode and learn about why high volume matters or something. But this episode is a little bit more personal than others. And yeah, we're going to talk about it, because at a time when I felt completely lost, when I had no sense of purpose, when I was burnt out, stressed, and questioning everything, movement and mindfulness kept me afloat. And now, years later, I've somehow, by some crazy miracle, built an entire career of some kind around helping others find what I found. Not just running, but the deeper connection to yourself that movement can bring. And this is that story. But I've got really exciting stuff coming as well towards the end of the episode. I've got a new segment for you. This week I put out a story on my Instagram essentially asking for feedback from you. Some of you who are listening right now may have provided that feedback. I'm really grateful for everyone who provided some feedback, their thoughts, both positive and also what you think you would like to see more of or would like to see improvements in from the podcast. And so I'm working on that. Something that came up a few times was to bring others on. So we're going to be bringing others on. There will be more sort of guest episodes or ways that we can bring more different voices onto the podcast. And I want to do that in a way that is interesting. I think there's a lot of interview podcasts out there. I'm not necessarily the best interviewer that there is, so I could become a better interviewer, of course, but I'm not here to just do an interview podcast. I want to do it in an interesting way. And so you'll see more of that kind of stuff coming. And as part of the improvements to the podcast, as part of the changes to the podcast, I'm also introducing segments. So there'll be various segments coming up. And the first segment you'll see today. So we've got a segment for you, which is exploring the businesses that shape running. And I'm calling it the RunBiz segment. So we've already got the listener questions segment at the end of episodes, and we're going to have some listener questions at the end of this episode. But before the listener questions, we're going to do a RunBiz segment. Now, the RunBiz segment is basically an occasional feature on That's Runnable where we spotlight the businesses shaping the world of running, from innovative startups to established brands doing something different. This segment is all about showcasing the gear, nutrition, technology, and services that runners might find interesting, that you might find interesting. I'll chat with founders, team members, and industry insiders, any representatives from said businesses, not for a sales pitch, but for a real conversation about what they're building, why it matters, and how it fits into the running world. Whether it's a niche brand with a cult following or a fresh idea making waves, RunBiz is here to give listeners a look behind the scenes and basically give you an insight into the businesses fueling the sport. Some of my career has been spent in early stage startups. I'm fascinated by business, entrepreneurship, and all of that good stuff. So I thought it'd be interesting to occasionally have a 15 to 20 minute segment with an interesting founder or representative of a business to talk about what they're making and why it matters. So this week we have a great and interesting company called Una Watch, and you'll hear all about Una Watch and what that is from the founder himself, Lewis, later on in the episode. So stick around for that. I'm excited to give you that. It's the first try. I mean, it's the first go at this new segment, and I loved the conversation. It was a really good one. I won't give too much away at this point, but do stick around if you want to hear about a really interesting challenger GPS watch brand coming onto the market. Did you know that in April it's Stress Awareness Month, and in May it's Mental Health Awareness Week? Well, Innovate, ahead of those two very important times to reflect on those topics, has launched a campaign encouraging people to reap the benefits of outdoors fun. The Play Dirty campaign is what it's called, and it's essentially aimed at raising awareness of the dangers associated with too much screen time. And we all know it, we all spend too much time scrolling. They are doing it to us, the big corporates out there, controlling our attention. And Innovate want people to ditch the devices and instead, where possible, get out onto the muddy trails, either running or hiking, but just getting out there and getting muddy. As part of this campaign, Innovate have launched a new competition that I want to tell you about to win a dirty weekend in the Lake District where its HQ is based. And the prize includes a 2-night stay for two in England's most mountainous national park. It's beautiful up there. If you've never been to the lakes, you're missing out. So there will be 2 guided runs over the best and dirtiest trails in the area, and 2 innovate kit bundles too. To enter this amazing competition, innovate.com/play-dirty. And the closing date for this is Monday the 31st of March. So we're very close to the closing date. So if you're listening to this right now and you're using your phone, pick up your phone and go to innovate.com/play-dirty and be in with the chance to win. And if you want to go to their website and browse the amazing products that they have on offer, go and do that. And as always, you will get 15% off if you purchase something and use the code Runnable at checkout. You know, I'm a fan of trying new things, which is why I'm very excited to be attending Endure 24 Reading this year. And it will be my first time trying my hand at a 24-hour relay race. I'm doing it with a mate of mine. And so we're going to try and do like an hour on and then an hour off each. And if you don't know what Endure 24 is, it's an event run by Threshold Sports, who also put on the iconic ultramarathons here in the UK, Race to the King and Race to the Stones. I've done Race to the Stones 100 and I did Race to the King 50 with Lou last year. Endure 24 is a race like no other. Either you run solo or in pairs or in teams of up to 12, and you'll have 24 hours to rack up as many laps of their 8K trail course as you can. There are 2 Endure 24 events taking place this summer in Reading on the 7th of June and Leeds on the 28th of June. Each sees thousands of runners taking on the challenge, and I'll be running Endure 24 Reading with a friend as a pair to basically see how far we can go for 24 hours. It's going to be good, a good bonding experience hopefully between us, and a nice sufferfest for the masochists among us. If you're interested in finding out more, I will be hosting a webinar with Endure 24. I'll be there with the team focusing on how to train and prepare for their 24-hour trail race on Wednesday, the 2nd of April at 7 p.m. So this is a webinar that you can join. If you're already joining for Endure 24, this will be a great webinar to dive deeply into some tips on how to approach training for Endure 24. If you're not doing Endure 24, to be honest with you, it might just be a good, interesting webinar to join anyway. I'll be sharing my expertise and advice on how you can best train for an event such as this, alongside some of the guys from Threshold Sports. There will be time for a Q&A at the end, so come prepared with any questions you may have. Information is in the description below if you do want to join. Head to endure24.co.uk/training plans to sign up, or at endure24uk on Instagram. See you there. So, without further ado, I want to dive deeply into why I started That's Runnable, why I do what I do, what the coaching hub is going to be, and what's next for the podcast. And I hope you are patient enough to listen along. I hope it's interesting. But like I said, we're gonna dive a little bit into my backstory, and I'm gonna keep this podcast from being all about me and my backstory. But for this episode, I do think there is something to be said for giving my reasons why I'm building That's Runnable and why I'm so passionate about this and what I hope it will become. I grew up in a loving Christian religious household. Everything in my upbringing, everything in my household was about faith, meaning, and service. My parents are the greatest parents. I love them to bits. And they offered me an upbringing that I wouldn't change for the world. It was a very strict Christian upbringing. When I say very strict, I just mean that we were Bible-believing Christians, born-again Christians. My whole family are very dedicated to the church, and they're very loving Christian people. But for me, I always struggled with my belief in God. Through my teenage years, sort of went in and out of believing in the faith, believing in the very existence of God. And I felt like my entire upbringing really was quite a challenge to fit into the framework of my upbringing, to fit into the framework of what my parents and a lot of people around me would teach me was true. And I'm giving you this background. It will become clear why I'm giving you this background, because it does matter. So after university, or during university, I left my religion. I finally nailed my colours to the mast and basically admitted to myself and others that I couldn't find satisfactory answers to life's biggest questions in that particular religion and in religion at all. And so I left the faith. And the hardest part about leaving my parents and my family's faith was not losing the belief itself, but I guess losing the shared purpose I had with my family. My family are all still strong Christians. They believe in the story of Jesus, and I don't. They have hope in that, and I don't. And that's always been quite tough for me. And after university, this separation from my faith caused a deep existential crisis. And to be honest with you, it was something that I really struggled with. It was the toughest thing that I personally went through. It was something that I didn't feel like many people would understand, because I felt like I was in a really unique spot. I didn't feel like I could turn to my parents about it. I didn't feel like I could turn to anyone in my family about it. And it was tough, man. It was a tough time, honestly. And it did cause this existential crisis for me. If life wasn't about serving God, then what was it about? And graduating from university, stepping out into the world, I didn't have any guiding purpose. All through my childhood, I was led to believe that there was purpose in the message in the Bible, in the story of Jesus, in service, in that hope, in that love, in that, preparation for the afterlife. That was where purpose came from. And I didn't have that anymore. And so began the search for meaning. I no longer had meaning given to me in a book. I had to discover meaning by myself. And at that age, I glorified independence. I didn't realize that I needed others. And off I went, trying to arrogantly be led by my ego. And I really struggled. To find any purpose. Fresh out of university, before I even went to my graduation ball, I had a job working in M&A sales, merger and acquisitions. So I was in financial sales. I was wearing a suit and tie to work. I was broke. I was grinding 14-hour days, chasing performance as my new kind of source of identity. And I really felt like I found it there. I thought I found some form of identity in the business world. I never really was an academic. I never did too well behind a desk revising and taking exams. That wasn't my strong suit. But as soon as I fell into the business world, into M&A sales, I felt like I'd found my place in some capacity. And so I thought maybe this is it. So there was stress, overwork, burnout, seeking meaning in a system that only rewards outputs, not well-being. And I hit my lowest point, and I was secretly struggling with suicidal thoughts, feeling lost, unsure how to move forward. I couldn't turn to my parents because, of course, they didn't get it, did they? That was sarcasm, if you couldn't tell. I should have turned to my parents. I should have been honest with the people around me, but I wasn't. I kept it in. And it was at that point that I was introduced to mindfulness and meditation. Now, until this point, actually, running had been a real anchor for me. I was a runner all through university. I was a triathlete at university. And so I had a really strict training regimen. I was training incredibly hard. There was a part of my identity that very much was attached to running, strength, and fitness generally. And so I had that in my life. I knew the value of that. Running had always been an anchor for me. But I think the real power and the real savior for me was marrying my running and my gymming and my strength training with meditation. Now, meditation for me was something that as a young Christian boy, I'd always sort of doubted. It was always something that was quite a sort of, Eastern philosophy that I had always shunned off, and I didn't think it was valid for whatever reason. It challenged my beliefs, right? So now that I had let go of all of that and I was just seeking some meaning elsewhere, I think I was more open-minded to the idea of meditation. So I started small, just trying to observe my thoughts rather than be controlled by them. And how it was interesting to me how this was so different from religion. I wasn't seeking an external answer, but I was learning to just sit with the present moment. And the power of just focusing on my breath and presence and body awareness, it was something I'd never tapped into before. And all of a sudden, I was introduced to this ability to control, to some capacity, my stress and control my emotions more. And this was huge for me. I was someone who was not able to do that. Growing up, I was not able to control my anger and frustration. I was not able to control stress. Of course, I still struggle with these things like everyone. I'm no, yogi guru. But this was an unlock for me. And running was always there as well. That was it was an anchor for me. And running really began for me as an escape. It was something that I used to escape when I was in my gap year, after school, and I started running, and during summer holidays at the end of school, I would run to escape, to get out the door, to expend some energy. And then during my gap year and then during my university years, I was running to get some time alone. And then once I left university and I'd done some triathlon and I'd really tried hard to perform and optimize the best I possibly could, I then really was using it as an escape and something to anchor me and to help me control my emotions. And it really then became something deeper. It was the only time of the day where I wasn't consumed by anxious thoughts. And the physical sensation of movement as a reminder that I was here, alive, feeling something. At that time in my life, I felt numb. I felt completely numb. I felt lost. I felt like nothing had meaning or purpose. I was stuck in a 5-day work week cycle, 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. Although I was working over the weekends quite often, I was just working around the clock, but I was just in this cycle. And I felt like all of this preparation through school and university, and then finally I had become an adult and got a job, and that was it. This was it. This is what we'd been building up to. I was lost, man. And I was numb. And the only time I felt anything was when I was running or when I was strength training in the gym. And the only time I felt peace was when I was running or when I was meditating. I was introduced to this amazing practice of mindfulness, of Vipassana meditation. And to be honest with you, I always kept it fairly secretive. I knew how some people in my life would respond to it. You know, he's got into this woo-woo rubbish. This meditation, you know, it's become a lot more accepted now, but it wasn't accepted then as much as it is now even, but it was more accepted, but it was especially not accepted by some people in my family, and I think still. But it really, really helped me. And at the time, unknowingly, running gave me agency and control over that part of my life where everything else felt out of control. Mindfulness gave me the ability to reconnect with my body, with my mind, Mindfulness gave me the ability to reconnect with my mind, to observe my thoughts, to not be so engrossed in this narrative and this dwelling on the past and the future, and instead to be present and focus merely on the sensations of my breath. And strength training allowed me to reconnect with my body. Gym wasn't just about aesthetics, although I wanted to look good, of course, everyone does. But it was about control and resilience and feeling physically capable. And strength training complemented running, building a body that wouldn't break. And there was this mental shift from just working out as a chore and moving because, I had to get through the motion and had to do the movements, to all of a sudden moving because it made me feel something. It made me feel human. And then what really saved me, what stopped me from doing or thinking about the unthinkable, was pairing mindfulness and movement. The ultimate combination. Meditation, running, and strength training together created this feedback loop for me. And this wasn't about chasing a new identity anymore. This wasn't about creating an identity for myself. It was about letting go of the need for one. This story I think I think I'm sounding like this happened overnight. I think it sounds like this happened in like a 6-month period. But I was very down and not myself for a good while. Running was an anchor for me. It was the thing that gave me discipline and routine. Strength training let me reconnect with my body in a way that running didn't necessarily, and it allowed me to be strong for my running. And meditation, eventually I started realizing that all three of these things, they worked so amazingly together, and meditation allowed me to reconnect and focus on the breath and be more present. And I had a realization that although it didn't happen overnight, this combination, this saved me. And I guess I believe that if it saved me, I may not have had the worst case of being down and lost, but I certainly was a version of it. And if it saved me, it can save others. And although it's not a religion, it's not my religion, I'm not religious, I believe it's important and it's meaningful to me to share what I've learned. Guys, Innovate have just added a shoe onto their range that I'm super interested to try out myself. I'm going to be dead honest, I haven't tried it yet, but the Trailflies I have tried, and what they're releasing are the Trailfly Max. Now, the Trailflies are quite possibly the most comfortable shoe I have. I say quite possibly, they actually are the most comfortable shoe I have. Whenever I am just wanting something that just feels great and has a good balance of grip and just feels good and is wide toe box and it's comfortable, hugs my foot, I go for the Trailflies. And they've released a max cushioned version called the Trailfly Max. They're available now. Go get them on their website, innovate.com, and use the code Runnable to get 15% off. I, at this point, would say that they're the most exciting shoe that they have, because if I'm going to be doing like longer distances, I really want to get my hands on a pair of Innovate Trailfly Maxes. So I just thought I'd tell you about it, and yeah, go get some. So, what is the mission behind That's Runnable and the Coaching Hub? Now you have some personal context. I believe we're going with that version, by the way. I think we're going with that, so you're probably listening to the actual podcast. We're just going to run with this. It's too late. What is the mission behind That's Runnable and the Coaching Hub? Well, I see a big problem in today's world. People are disconnected. The world is filled with noise, distraction, comparison, and the running world is especially filled with it. Many people don't have any exercise practice at all, or many people have an exercise practice, but they're on the other end of the spectrum and they have one that's damaging their relationship with themselves. And I see this is rife in the running space and the fitness space. Generally, health and fitness is broken. It's either non-existent or it's obsessive and damaging. The fitness industry is outcome obsessed, it's athletics driven, and it's toxic for many people. So what do? Well, my mission with That's Runnable is to reframe fitness, running, and strength. The Coaching Hub is really about helping people to reconnect with movement in a way that serves them in the long term. It's about mindfulness in training, not just mindless training. I want to teach people what I think I know about enjoying the process, to develop body awareness, better body awareness, to train in a way that keeps them running and moving for life, not in a way that wrecks them within a decade and then has them complaining about their back by the time they're 40. This is important to me. I think it should be more important to a lot of people. So I want to take what I've learned from my experience. I want to take what I know about personal training, about strength, about running and coaching. I want to marry it all together, and I want to help people. It's as simple as that. And through the vessel of That's Runnable, I want to showcase this extension of my own ethos, bring other people in. There are plenty of others who share this philosophy, who share this ethos. I want to bring them in to what we're doing together, and I want to expand it. And I want as well to have everyone who's involved, everyone who is gaining any sort of value from any of this, to feel part of it. I think the word community is thrown around a lot like it's a buzzword. In reality, most people aren't looking for an online community. I've actually surveyed a big proportion of my audience for That's Runnable, About 1,700 people responded, and I'll give you an insight into what I learned about what people's priorities are. There was a question where I asked what people's priorities were and what they wanted from some sort of online running service. And the bottom answer, there were all sorts of things. There was, tips on running. There was mindset. There was training plans and all this good stuff. How to get faster, how to run for longer, how to maintain a consistent running practice was a big one. But the one that landed at the bottom was to feel part of a community. Why am I telling you that? Because people don't truly want that. People already feel, a lot of people feel part of a community. They don't think they can really achieve any feeling of community from these things. And so I think it's a buzzword that's thrown around because it sounds nice. But I do truly think that as a byproduct of providing information, of offering something of value to you, the individual who's listening to this, I do think that the byproduct can be feeling part of a community of like-minded individuals who are prioritizing mindset and well-being over just performance, who are thinking about the bigger, deeper, broader impact of this running practice, strength and mindful practice, who are thinking more deeply about it, who recognize the power it has to reconnect with ourselves and with the nature around us, with our environment, to reframe how we see these things and to just reset from the noise of all of the running culture that's out there at the moment, all of the comparison, all of the carbon plated shoes and the, over commercialization. All of this stuff can be, our perspective on it can be reset, and we can be reminded of what really matters. And so I want to provide an invitation to reset and reframe and reconnect. So what can you expect from the Coaching Hub? Well, practical, actionable training that isn't about fast results or just performance. It's about lifelong sustainability. There'll be strength, running, and philosophy combined, because fitness isn't just about the body, it's about the mind. And a community of people who get it, who protect this mindset, who protect this mentality, who want to move well, feel strong, and stay in the game for life. In the Coaching Hub itself, there'll be courses, deep dives, video courses, PDFs, posts, ability to engage with each other, live Q&As, webinars, all sorts of different ways to engage with this content. I'm hoping that from its release, there will be enough in there for the first week or so. And then as we continue, there will just be more and more that will get piled in there. And hopefully within a few months, there'll be so much in there that it'll be difficult to get through it all. And I just want it to be a steadfast repository of good, high quality information on all this sort of stuff. So the future of That's Runnable, outside of just the Coaching Hub, I want to talk about some plans for the podcast. We'll never lose the sort of original core format. There will always be solo pods from me. I'll always try and engage with you on a personal level. I will always try and offer my own coaching advice and tips. But I also want to involve others. I want to bring on expert interviews, Q&As, and training philosophy. I want to kind of evolve That's Runnable from just content and community, from a personal brand to more of a movement, something that people can feel they're a part of, and something that really makes sense, and something as well that you can go to and take from and apply to your own training. So I guess I just want to help people redefine what fitness means to them by making a meaningful impact on how people move and how people think about movement. I think we have it wrong. I think a lot of people have it wrong. I think we want to just get it done, and we forget to focus on the present moment and be mindful of what we're doing. So, just some final thoughts then. I appreciate you listening. I really appreciate you allowing me to be, I guess, a little bit vulnerable on this episode and tell my story a bit. There was genuine risk in telling the story for me. Some of what I said, I don't think I've necessarily even opened up to my family. So, it's a funny game, this content creation game, but I want to be honest with you. I want to be real, and I want to kind of lead by example and live honestly and truly and sort of bravely, I guess. And I think that this matters, because if we're not honest in our day-to-day lives, if we don't face up to the tough realities of what's going on in many different things, then how are we going to do that even in our training? So, I think although I really want to help people with their training, I want to stand for a holistic approach, a truly holistic approach, and not just say that it's a holistic fitness approach, but really truly care more for the person than the performance. And I think that starts by being honest myself about where this has come from, who I am, what I'm about. And I just want to encourage you as a listener, whether you're feeling lost, you might be feeling burnt out or stuck in toxic fitness habits, there is a different way. Okay, I've got a really exciting segment for you. This is a real change in tone, so get ready for that. But this is a new segment. We're trying it out. It's the RunBiz segment. And what I have for you today is a really interesting one. This is a business called Watch. They are, as you'll hear in the chat that I have with Lewis, the founder CEO, they are Edinburgh based. They are a modular watch company. So they're a GPS watch company. They're releasing a challenge to the Garmins and Coroses and Apple Watches out there. Their main point of difference is their modularity. So as you'll hear from Lewis, he'll explain what that means. But this is a sustainable approach. It's a brave approach, and I think you'll find this interesting. And I think you'll be excited about what's to come. You can get involved. There's links in the description below. They've got a Kickstarter campaign coming up, so do listen in. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know what you think. So here we go. This is Lewis from Watch. Cool. Well, I'm here with Lewis, founder CEO of Watch. How are you getting on, Lewis?
I'm good, thanks. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to actually meet you and put a face to a name. I'm super interested to chat to you about Watch. I guess like to start with a broad question. What is it?
Yeah, sure. So Watch is the first fully modular GPS running watch. It's both repairable and upgradable. So let's say you drop your watch and you damage the display. You can simply replace that component. Or if the battery no longer holds its charge, you can come in and replace your battery yourself at home. So you simply go onto our website, order a spare part, and you're up and running again. So, we're trying to combat e-waste. So if you think about existing GPS running watches, as soon as there's some kind of issue and you're out of your warranty period, it ends up going in the bin, and it's one more device that ends up in landfill. We're trying to be a little bit more sustainable, so you can come onto our website, order a spare part, and fix it yourself at home.
That's so sick, man. I think when I look at my watch, my strap is replaceable, which is good because actually my old strap broke and then I was able to replace it. So modularity makes sense, but I guess it's not really a thing in the wearable space. Is that right? Or?
It's not, and one of the most common things to break on a watch is the display. So if you accidentally drop it on your bathroom tiles, the bathroom tiles are always going to come off better. And quite often that will happen when you're out of your warranty period, and it can cost a lot of money to go and buy a new watch. And we want to sort of empower the consumer to keep their devices going and repair them themselves. And the second most common one is the battery no longer holding its charge. These batteries, they naturally degrade over their lifetime, and with existing wearables, they're fixed in the battery. There's no way of repairing them. If you think back to mobile phones from 20 years ago, old Nokia phones, you could replace the batteries in those. So this is one of the first GPS watches with a replaceable battery. And the other thing you can do is you can actually upgrade some of the components. So if you think about where health sensing is at the moment in terms of running watches, commonly you'll see heart rate and SpO2. Before that, it was just heart rate. And prior to that, you didn't have any health sensors. But in the future, there's companies working on things like blood pressure monitoring. So as new health sensors become available, you'll be able to actually upgrade those components on your watch, which is really cool.
That's so mad. So, where did this idea come from? Give us a bit of a background on yourself. What does your career look like before?
So I'm an electronics engineer, and prior to this, I worked for a company building golf GPS watches. And what we kind of realized was that all watches have common elements to them, and then they all have small features that sort of differentiate themselves from one another. And we thought, well, what if we make those sort of differentiating features modules? So you can actually just take the core watch, which includes the boring stuff like the battery and the battery charging, but then you can add on cool stuff to customize it. And then secondary to that, what happened was my wife got a new Apple Watch, and literally on day 2 of owning it, she scratched it. And we looked up, how do we fix this? And it was going to cost, half the price of the watch just to repair it. And we just thought, right, there's got to be something, better here. You should be able to repair your own devices. And there are other companies doing this out with wearables. So you have Fairphone based in the Netherlands doing repairable mobile phones. You've got Framework doing modular laptops, but no one else is doing this in the wearable space. So we thought, right, we're going to give it a shot. And the company was founded in January last year, and we've basically been flat out designing, testing, making sure this is all going to come together. I mean, it's a challenge to make a modular watch. Of course, it's a massive design challenge, but we've got a really experienced engineering team, and we think we're going to pull it off. So we're really excited about it.
That's so sick. And you're based up in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah, we're based in Edinburgh. In Edinburgh, we've got some staff. We've got a designer in Barcelona, and we've got some software engineers in Poland. But the core of the team is based in Edinburgh.
Nice. And is your target market, I guess America's got a lot of crowd and a lot of funds. So are you targeting a global market, or are you sort of targeting certain markets first?
We're launching on Kickstarter, and we're basically going to ship worldwide. But America is a big focus for us at the moment. Obviously 6 times the number of runners that we have in the UK. And it's a huge market, and that's not to say the UK is not a big market as well. So, we're excited for both. Obviously there's a huge boom in running at the moment, but there's not been that much innovation in the wearable space. I should mention something else that's quite unique about this watch is that the charger is a standard USB Type-C cable.
Shut up. Shut up. Are you joking? Oh, man. Yeah. Lou, my girlfriend, and I are just endlessly rummaging around for our specific charger. Yeah. I've had different watches through my time as a runner, and once you move companies, then you're like, oh no, this is a Garmin one. I've got a Chorus now. Yeah. When are they going to start making USB-C?
It's funny, and I've been guilty of making these mistakes in my past career with the golf watch company. We designed a different charger for them as well, so that was a third different type of charger.
Yeah.
And we came to, very on day one of we decided that right, we're going to design this around a USB Type-C charger, the charger that we all have lying around the house. And obviously there are some design challenges that come with that. It's quite a big charging port, so we just have to make sure that everything else in the watch kind of gets squeezed down to make space for that. We also have to, waterproof it. But recently, waterproof USB-C connectors have become available. If you think about the latest Apple watches use USB-C, and they're actually submergible. So despite, people think about, USB-C, that's a big hole in the side of the watch, that's going to be a waterproofing issue. It's actually not, because the connector itself completely seals the cable side to the inside of the watch. So despite being USB-C, it's still waterproof. So that's good.
Run us through a bit of the tech. Like what are your plans for, the capacity on that front?
Sure. So I'll show you, this is our latest prototype. So this is what we'd call a pre-production prototype. So the software is not fully working yet. We're still bringing up elements of it. We're still finalizing our mobile app. But this is pretty much exactly what one of the color variants of the watch will look like. We also have a teal version.
Oh, nice.
And a standard black and charcoal version as well.
Yeah.
And actually these strap prototypes just arrived yesterday. So these are the latest designs for the strap. So basically we plan to develop the prototypes until they're fully working. Those will be ready in the next few weeks. We're launching the product itself on Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform where customers can come on, pay for a product at a discounted rate to back new companies. And once we reach our funding goal, which hopefully we'll do quite early on in the campaign, those funds are released to us, and we'll basically start manufacturing the first batch and get those out to customers. We're basically, as a company, we're all gearing up towards our Kickstarter campaign at the moment. So the marketing team are working hard to drive people towards following our Kickstarter page and placing reservations. And the engineering team are just frantically trying to build, test. So it's an exciting time, so it's good.
So obviously you've got a unique issue or a unique challenge, I guess, as a hardware company that's also an app. You're not just building an app. Mm-hmm. How's that all going?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about hardware is that you need an experienced team, which we do have, thankfully, from building golf watches before this. I wasn't the founder at that company, but I was one of the early employees. But the second thing you need is you do need some dry powder. You need some money. Building hardware is expensive. Every time you do a round of prototypes, it's expensive. So thankfully, we have had some really good backing from a London-based VC, which we closed at the end of last year. And that has helped us move this on to the next level. But as you say, we have to obviously have a really nice mobile app, but we also have to work on the watch as well. But we have, we're well funded, we have a good team, and we have a good marketing team as well. So we're excited. We're very confident we're gonna make an impact here.
Probably your most common question, or a very common question, is that you're in a crowded marketplace and it's competitive. I mean, I tend to think that actually the more crowded a marketplace, the better sometimes, because the more players, the more noise, the more you can kind of see these trends and see clear problems across the board, and you can actually stand out. I guess your main sort of difference is the modularity.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of other ways that you're thinking about how you're different fundamentally, or is it very sort of focused?
So you've mentioned the modularity, which opens up the repairs, and we've spoken about the USB-C charging cable. The third thing is that the software is going to be very much community driven. So we are releasing the software on the watch. It's going to be very simple and very intuitive to use. There's not going to be a lot of fluff or a lot of noise around it. The idea is to go out, track your run, and get it uploaded to your favorite platform, which is typically Strava, and then just really get out of your way. It's not going to suggest what days you train. It's just going to be really simple to use.
Right.
And then the idea is that we listen to customer feedback and add features as necessary based on what the crowd is looking for. So that's going to set us apart as well. And because we've got this nice, small, lean team, we'll be able to move really quickly on developing those software features. So I would say that's the third thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. There's a certain brand out there that gets quite a bad rap for telling people that they're unproductive. Are you going to be telling us we're unproductive?
No. The thing is, it's funny. My two kids dictate when I train, not my watch. And it's funny that, if you look at, more amateur runners, they've got kids and they've got work and they've got, so that doesn't really apply to them. And then if you look at the more professional runners, they've got coaches. So I'm not sure the watch needs to tell you when to train. And that's something we're planning to avoid. And, we've done a lot of research on our customers to find out what are the features that they actually use. And we've listened to that and we've tried to implement only those core features initially.
I've worked in early stage startups before. It's a challenging environment. For you as an individual, as a person, what has been the hardest part about the process so far since launch?
Good question. For me as an individual, so I'm a massive nerd. So I think, if I could just sit in my bubble and design electronics, I'd be quite happy. But as a founder, you have to do everything else. You've got to do HR, banking. You've got to go and try and raise investment, which thankfully we did. You've got to work with the marketing team. And I'm enjoying that. And I'm really enjoying that. But it does, you have to kind of spread yourself really thin. So I think that's the biggest challenge of working in a startup is you end up doing a lot of different roles. And everyone who's come in to join the team, is expected to not just wear one hat. They're going to wear at least 3 or 4 different hats in the business. And I think that's absolutely vital. But thankfully, everyone who's joined so far has been very much on board with that. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm impressed, very impressed. I mean, I've gone on the website and the design is beautiful. And the idea that you can actually change the color as well, because it's modular and, just sort of customize it and showcase your character a little bit in it. I think the design part of it is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess people have strong opinions about design, and actually we can talk forever about the tech and we can argue about which watch is better on the market based on the tech. But quite often you choose a watch because it looks cool. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I chose my watch because I thought it looked cool.
No credit.
How's that all gone? Just making decisions on how it looks.
We have a fantastic product designer. So a guy called Jordy. He is. He just has that vision. You can describe something to him, and he'll come up with 2 or 3 options, and they all look beautiful, and you want all of them. So yeah, we're really fortunate to have him on the team. He's our Johnny Ive, to use an Apple reference. And and it's just about giving everyone on the team freedom to sort of express themselves. And we think we've done a great job. So.
I think I'm probably inclined to ask a question that's on everyone's minds. I mean, endlessly, as a runner, we're told that it's a cheap sport, and then you get into it and you realize that everything costs a stupid amount. There are carbon-plated shoes now that are over £300.
Yeah.
So what sort of price point are you aiming for with Una?
So we're aiming at around £270. But during our Kickstarter campaign, you will have significant discounts on that. So depending on how early you get involved, so if you reserve the watch now, you'll actually get it at our lowest price, which is £190. And then depending on how early you come into the campaign, there's various price points. So £200, £220. But when we eventually launch, once the Kickstarter campaign is over and we've shipped the initial batch of product to customers and we start selling it through our website and start selling it in retail shops, it'll be £270.
Well, I think that's very fair, to be honest. And I look at some of the watches out there, 500-600. Some of the top watches are $1,000, right? So if you're comparing that, and then you're thinking, well, in theory, this is the last watch I should need to buy given its modularity.
Exactly. And also people ask, okay, yes, so you're going to sell modules, but are you going to make a huge markup on the modules? We're not. That's not the plan. So for example, if you damage your display, you'll be able to come onto our website and order a replacement display, and that'll be around £40, including shipping. So we're quite happy with that. New battery, that'll be about £20. So if you think about, buying a new watch versus buying a replacement battery for £20, it's kind of a no-brainer. And if you're used to your watch and you like the way the software works and you've got used to all the button combinations, why would you buy a new one? Go and just replace the parts that are not working.
Well, Lewis, I really appreciate you coming on to our first edition of RunBiz. Tell us, how can people get involved? How can they find the Kickstarter and all of that good stuff?
Sure. Well, the easiest thing to do is just to come straight onto our website, which is unawatch.com. From there, you'll be able to see our pre-sale page. You'll be able to reserve the lowest price ahead of Kickstarter. But if not, come and visit us on Kickstarter on April the 2nd, and we'll be running for around 30 days during April. And that's how to get involved. But
amazing.
You can leave us your email, you can place a deposit now, but just give us feedback as well. That's the other thing. We're with this sort of pre-sale campaign, we're encouraging people to join us on our Facebook group. Give us feedback, tell us what you think, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. We're listening to everyone and getting back to everyone as well. That's something that we're really keen on.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see where you go. I wish you all the best. I think it's something that we all need to focus on, sustainability in every space, especially tech. So I'm a big fan, and good luck with everything. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks very much, Tommy. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation, our first RunBiz segment with Lewis from UnaWatch. If you do want to go and support what they're doing, if you want to get an UnaWatch for a silly price, then go and help them out by checking out their Kickstarter campaign. Launches on the 2nd of April. The link is, everything you need to know is in the description as always, so go check them out. Really lovely team, and I know how tough it is to be in that early stage startup environment, especially in a competitive, saturated market like the GPS watch market is, and I think they're doing great things. They're about the right thing, and I think they deserve your support. So go check them out. Okay, shall we do some listener questions to finish off the episode? I think that's a stupid question. Let's do it. So we're going to do 3 questions. We'll start with a question from Gideon.
Tommy, how are you doing? My name is Gideon. I'm from Israel. I've been going through the base phase of marathon training for the last 3 weeks. It's been going great. I feel good. Putting a good emphasis on strength training. And I just wanted to ask you, as I move to the build phase, should I start incorporating using different types of shoes for quality sessions, like sprints or intervals, or is it okay to just grind the current pair I just have for all kind of trainings that I have, and then in the future just buy a new one? Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate what you're doing, and bye.
Thanks, Gideon. Great question. I think I have maybe some unique takes on this. What we tend to see quite often from people is that when they're doing quality sessions like tempo or threshold, they'll get their fast shoes out. And that's great. I think it's definitely important to know what it feels like to run fast and to use the shoes that you're going to be using when you're on race day running fast. There's a time and a place for that. But there's also some value in doing your tempo or your quality sessions of any kind in shoes that don't have as much energy return, that basically demand more from you. And I actually think that if we think a little bit more about that, if we were to do more quality sessions in shoes that don't necessarily assist that session in the sense that they don't make it easier to go faster, then you have to work your muscles. You have to grow your muscles. In training, what are you doing partly when you're doing your tempo and your threshold runs? You're strengthening the muscles required to make you go faster. And you're building a bigger engine, aerobic capacity. But in terms of your muscular strength and power, that's what you're growing in those sessions. So when you're doing things like hill sprints and that sort of thing, I think you can use shoes that aren't necessarily going to be your carbon plated shoes or your fast shoes, your nylon plated shoes or whatever it is. So I would always, if you have the privilege, if you have the opportunity, I would always recommend, working with some sort of rotation and getting to know the different types of shoes you have. In my rotation, I have a good mix. I have some more minimal shoes, maybe some Innovate shoes. If I'm on the trails, they're quite minimal. They demand more of my lower legs. If I'm doing some sort of tempo, I might bring out some faster shoes, a little bit more energy return. Maybe if I'm doing a race, if I actually want to get a fast time, I'm going to bring out some carbon plated shoes. But I think there is some value and something to be said for playing with different types of shoes and understanding what you gain from those shoes. You might find, Gideon, that if you do like a tempo run in one pair of shoes, then the next day you'll be more achy than if you had done them in carbon plated shoes or something like that. And that can be a good thing. You're demanding more of your legs. You're putting them through some serious training, and that can have its value. So yes, I would advise playing with some sort of rotation if you have the ability to do so, rather than just suddenly throwing on a brand new pair of shoes on race day that you've never run in. Play with them, practice in the shoes that you're going to run in, but also don't always just rely on those fast shoes for fast sessions. That would be my take. Great question. Thanks for asking it. Who are we going to go to next? I have to be completely honest, guys. We have a good problem on our hands, and that is there are far too many questions to go through all of them. I want to apologize if you have asked a question within the last 2 months. We've had an influx, which is great. It means that everyone wants to get involved, but some of the questions are repeated, and so I'm doing my best to actually go through some of the questions and choose them based on who's asking a unique question or something we haven't touched on yet. And so please keep sending them in, but please take my apology that if your question doesn't get answered, I really am sorry that I can't get to all of them anymore. But next up, we'll go with Will's question here. Yeah, Will from Dorset.
Hi, Tommy. Will from down in Dorset. Just want to say I'm loving the podcast. Very, very helpful. Getting a lot of information and tips from it. And also everyone else's questions. I've got a question regarding running poles. I've got a first ultra coming up, and I'm hoping to do a few of them this year. And I'm a bit unsure where to start, how to get used to them, how to start practicing with them, and I just wondered if you had any tips. Also, part of the same sort of question, have you got a certain distance that you'll take the poles out with you from? So, like, you might take them out past 20k, or a certain elevation that you'll take them out. Say, like, if you're doing, say, a run with 600 meters of elevation, you'll take them, but if it's anything less, you wouldn't. Any tips or advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I don't think people talk about poles enough, to be honest. I don't think we give them enough attention, and there's not actually as much information out there on how to use poles as I think could be helpful. So I'm going to try audibly to describe the best way to use poles and see if it helps in any way. So when you are using poles, you want to be using, in terms of the pole you're using at any given time, you want to be striding forward with the opposite leg. So think of it like when you're walking naturally, if your left foot steps forward, your right arm is going to step forward with it. It's going to swing forward, with it. In the same way, you want to be using your poles like that. So every time you stride with your left leg, you want to reach forward with your right arm and right pole. And then you're going to drive forward. As you drive with your left leg, you're going to drive with your right pole. Okay, so you're sort of marching with opposite arms and legs, similar to some sort of military march. And when you're driving uphill, if you're on a pretty decent sort of fairly controllable hill, you can really get some good pace if you have a good pace with your arms and your legs. Your arms and your legs. Can you tell that it's 10:30? Your arms and your legs are going to alternate, and you'll get a good pace on. So you do just want to practice with poles generally. I would personally say that poles are most valuable on the uphill. So on inclines, they're most valuable. The reason I say that is because I see most injuries take place, and I see most lack of balance happen on the downhills when people are trying to use poles on the downhill. If you're in an ultra and you're really struggling, to have 4 legs can be helpful. But I would argue that you should be strong enough to balance without your poles on the downhill, on the descent. And if you're really struggling, you can use those poles to help, but you have to be very careful. If it's really muddy, if it's really particularly muddy, it might be helpful to have poles to keep your balance and that sort of thing. But talking about what I do, I get rid of the poles on the downhill. I pack them away because I am much more confident just using my arms to balance and just running down on my legs and not having those extra 2 legs in the poles. I also want to get some pace on the downhill, and the poles just really get in the way, and I feel like I'm going to trip over them, and I struggle on the downhill a bit more if I have my poles out. So I do try and either sort of just put them together and hold them in my right hand, or actually just completely put them away, and I use a quiver from Salomon that I just shove them in. So I fold away my Lecky poles and I whack them in my Salomon quiver. On the uphill, I will use them on ultras, and they're a great thing for ultras. If you are doing a European ultra and it's very hilly, very like a lot of elevation gain accumulated over the course of the ultra, you will want poles. Absolutely, some ultras will demand that you have poles. It's a huge thing, very helpful. So I'm doing Madeira Island Ultra Trail 115. It's going to be a big race, and it's got 7,000 meters of elevation gain. So I will 100% need some poles for that. In terms of training, I don't really use my poles in training all that much. I think for me, I don't feel incompetent with poles. So once I get to a race, I feel like I can just bring them out and actually start using my poles and not worry too much about having not used them all that much in training. But if I am going on a long trail run and I want to practice for an ultra, I will take them out with me. But it's more about how aggressive the elevation gain is over how much distance I have on any given training run. For me, I think there's more value in really training my legs and demanding more of my legs without the poles in my training, and then getting to race day and using the poles. I can recognize that a lot of people would disagree with that and would say that actually you want to be getting your poles out quite a lot and get used to using them. For me, it's never been a problem. I think if you feel uncomfortable using poles, you want to use them more often and really get to that point of just feeling very comfortable with your poles. I'm going to be doing Lone Wolf in a couple of weeks, and I'm actually going to be using that as a bit of a test race to test out gear and that sort of thing. So although it's a 6.5K loop, I won't need that much gear. I'm going to be going with full gear and having like poles in my quiver and just playing with that just for the purpose of practicing for a 24-hour period. So playing with it like that is how I'd go about things. But it really does come down to personal preference, to be honest. Some people are just more comfortable using poles than others. And if you're uncomfortable using them, they are so invaluable on an ultra. They're so important that I would say you really want to prioritize practicing with them. It's not necessarily that you want to use them because it makes your long run easier or anything like that. I mean, it might be that you're in some aggressive terrain, maybe locally you're running on some aggressive terrain, you might use poles all the time. But for a lot of people, I think they're training in environments that don't necessarily need poles all that much, unless you're going on long trail runs in the lakes or something. Most of the time, people, would be fine without them. But yeah, it's all personal preference. And for me, I'm never going to do a run that I just can't survive without poles in my training. It's only going to be when I'm doing an ultra that I really do require them. So more often than not, I will opt to not take my poles, but it would take a decent run for me to really think it was wise to bring them out. I hope that helps. That's enough of an answer there, Will. I appreciate the question. It was a good one. A good new topic. Okay, Rachel.
Hi, Tommy. I love your podcast and find it really inspirational to not just running or fitness, but to my everyday life. Because I think that a lot of the information that you say can be applied to like every aspect of life. I was wondering how you keep yourself disciplined and what you say to yourself or what actions you take in order to stay disciplined, because I know that motivation comes and goes and you can't rely on that because, it's not a stable thing. Just what you tell yourself, and if you have any advice for keeping yourself disciplined, and if you could share that. Thank you.
Nice. Thanks for the question, Rachel. Am I going to be able to finish with a motivational speech at the end at 10:40? Probably not. But discipline is a super interesting topic, because I think that discipline really is all that matters in some way when it comes to your training. Because you need to be disciplined with showing up, you need to be disciplined with resting, you need to be disciplined with your nutrition, with your sleep. It all comes down to discipline, and it depends what sort of relationship you have or what sort of connotations you have, associations you have with the word discipline. But for me, it's one of the most valuable things you can learn, being disciplined with yourself, because it's a case of living with integrity. It's making a promise to yourself, respecting yourself, and following through. That scared me. My bag just fell, and that scared me. It's about following through with the promise you make to yourself. And, when we struggle with discipline, when we struggle with whether we're going to show up or not, I think sometimes it's worth just thinking about how you're going to feel afterwards. And it's a simple tip, but really sort of tune into how you feel currently, why you feel the way you feel, why you feel like you don't want to do it, because that's ultimately what you're asking, isn't it, Rachel? Like overcoming the feeling of not wanting to do it. Why do you not want to do it? Is it to do with your mood, your energy levels? What are you listening to? Are you listening to a narrative that's false? And then think about what it feels like having done it. I'm not just talking about the physiological and then therefore the psychological changes. I'm talking about the satisfaction of having followed through with a promise to yourself. How good you feel about yourself. How proud you feel of yourself. All that stuff is on the other side of doing what you don't want to do. Sometimes the only reason for stress and anxiety is avoiding doing what you know you should be doing. There is something to be said for seeing something you don't want to do as an opportunity. It's like, yes, I don't want to do it. Even better. It's going to be so valuable. Difficult way to think, I think. Difficult to suddenly look at something that you don't want to do and be like, good. But let me give you a small example. I'll leave you with this. Every morning I try to do 100 push-ups. It's my little routine. I go to the kitchen, I start making a coffee, and I want to do 100 push-ups. Now, there are days where I'm not disciplined, where I get my phone out and I immediately start scrolling on social media. I'm making my coffee and I think to myself, I can't be bothered. I cannot be bothered to do them. Maybe, I've done them every day this week. Can I just sack it off? And there are days where I feel more up for it. On the days where I don't feel up for it, I have a huge opportunity there to do it anyway and feel so much better than I did before. On the days where I feel up for it, I'm not actually going to feel that much better in comparison to how I felt already. I already felt good. I felt up for it. I felt motivated. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just sort of affirming how I already felt. But on the days that I don't want to do it, there's an opportunity there. And every time I have one of those mornings where I'm just making my coffee and I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to do it, I have to coach myself into remembering that there's more value to today. There's more value in doing it this morning because I don't want to. And sometimes I do it. Quite often I do it, to be fair. And sure enough, I always feel proud of myself, happy I did it. And I, as an individual, feel like I've overcome my thoughts. I am bigger than my thoughts. You, Rachel, are bigger than how you feel at any given moment. You're more powerful than the thoughts that you receive. This is about mindfulness. This is being mindful of the thoughts you're receiving, how you're thinking, and overcoming them with action. I hope that helps. that is it for this episode of That's Runnable. Thank you for indulging me, letting me speak about my background, my backstory, why all this stuff matters, why I do what I do, why I've started That's Runnable, what I want That's Runnable to be. I really, I know I say it a lot, but I really appreciate all the support that's come my way for the podcast, for the coaching hub, which will be coming out this Sunday in a few days' time. If you're not on the wait list, join the wait list, because if you do end up joining within 7 days, you'll get 20% off. Make the most of that. It's obviously free to get on the wait list, so you might as well. Check out the links in the description. The sponsor for this episode, Innovate. Sign up to Endure24's webinar if you want to listen to me ramble about that race. Lone Wolf, that's happening in about a week. That'll be fun. There's still places for that, so if you want to join for that, join in. But that's it for this episode. I really appreciate you listening. Thanks for listening. Go check out Uno Watch as well. Go check them out. Get involved in the Kickstarter campaign. But that is it. Run the runnable. Keep showing up for yourself, and I'll see you next time.